We ain't seen the likes of Palworld in quite some time in regards to what people are playing and what people are buying. It has been out for 3 days, came out the 19th, Friday, today's Sunday. In less than 40 hours, it sold through 3 million copies. That's on Steam and probably a little bit on Xbox, although there's also the horde of folks who are playing it, quote, for free on Game Pass. It is a phenomenon, at least right out the gate. I think it's clear that a lot of people have a hunger for a next-gen Pokemon. I was late to the Pokemon game. It was not really my generation. I played it barely, and it never really connected with me. This review, impressions, whatever you want to call it, played for about 15 hours, will be from the point of view of someone who isn't coming to the table looking to scratch the Pokemon nostalgia itch. But my guess is that was sort of one of the reasons, or a big reason, that it took off immediately, because it looks like Pokemon. That's the goddamn truth. We'll talk about that in just a little bit, about how close it is to Pokemon, and is that problematic, and will that be problematic for the future of Palworld? But this wasn't on my radar. I heard people saying Pokemon with guns. I'm like, okay, that's funny. It kind of felt like it was going to be bug snacks to me. I'm like, maybe I'll play it, whatever. I get up Friday, I'm looking up news for the show, and I see a lot of these reports that, holy shit, the servers are crashing. This game, this little Pokemon with guns that I just thought was almost a joke, is crashing servers. People are buying it. People won't stop playing it. And lo and behold, one of the reasons, as you guys know, I'm a big Game Pass fan. There it is, sitting on Game Pass, day one, early access. I was on my PC, been playing it on the PC. I'm like, fuck it, I'll try. Cutting to the chase, my friends, I adore it. I love it. I've been playing this thing, in the last 2.5 days, I've put about 15 hours in, which for me, it's like 7 hours a day. That's a lot. I go to bed way too late. I was in bed at 2 o'clock last night because I was up playing it, midnight the night before because I was up playing it, and I wake up excited to play it some more. And I get up and I put things off in the morning so I can play it some more. I really, really, really like this game. And I want to talk about why I like it and why I think it's great. It reminds me, believe it or not, of the game Jet Moto that Sony put out in '96, PS1. A minor classic, did really well. A lot of people love it. Spawned a little bit of a franchise. Obviously, the games are nothing similar, but what I learned from that in a review from Next Gen Magazine was, of course, I had seen the phrase, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, but I hadn't really seen that applied to video games until Jet Moto, because the review was, it's not very attractive, it's kind of complicated, the controls are a little wonky, blah, 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 but somehow all of those things come together and coalesce to give you a great, awesome time. And Palworld's very similar to me when it comes to the moment-to-moment gameplay. Maybe I'm missing something, but I don't think there's any one thing it does that's super special moment-to-moment. The combat is fine. I like that the little pals that you attack telegraph enough that it's not just like a clicker. You have to know when to dodge and see when they're powering up and all that. But, it's not like you're playing Elden Ring or Bloodborne. I would argue the first 3 God of Wars are more complicated, but it's satisfying enough. The navigation is a total Breath of the Wild wannabe. Animations don't look anywhere near as good or smooth, a little bit janky, but it's good enough. You feel like you're in the space. There are some really beautiful areas of the map, but for the most part, it's a solid open world, Japanesey, Studio Ghibli-esque meets anime vibe. I know people would say anime and Ghibli. They're not the same. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. The crafting is standard. I like the crafting. Like I said, none of it I don't like, but none of it is extraordinary. Where this game excels are all of those disparate systems being put together in a way that I've not seen in a game before. Now, I'm not an Ark player. Some people are like, oh, this is like, fine, whatever. For me, I've not played a game like this. I was never interested in Ark. Even with Ark, though, my understanding is, yes, you can capture dinosaurs and ride them and stuff, but in this, you are actually able to take the Pokemon, the pals, and you can either murder them for experience points and goods, or you can capture them, bring them back to your base, and you can choose which ones you want to work on the base, and they all have different skills and abilities. Some are good at gardening, some are good at collecting, some are good at wood chopping. You're able to sort of say, hey, I want these 6 guys on my base, building it up to protect from attacks and building up resources so I can grow my weapons, so I can go out and kill bigger bosses, blah, blah, blah. And then you've got anywhere, depending on how many you unlock, a number of slots where you can take the creatures you choose to take with you into battle. And it's real-time battle, right? It's not like an RPG thing like Pokemon is or was. I don't know if it's changed, but it used to just be RPG, turn-based. But this is, you throw the guy out there and he's fighting by your side, and you can level him up and give him different abilities. And you got to feed him, you got to take care of him. All of those systems work really well together. And I haven't experienced that before, and so I love that part. Here's the other part that I think is incredibly cool about this game. I've seen some people complain about the loop of the game, which is just kind of like the core of the game. If you strip away all the flash and whatever, the essence of what you do to keep you engaged over the long haul and moment to moment. They've said, oh, but there's so many systems, it's hard, the loop is overwhelming. I didn't find that, and I have ADD. But what I love about the loop, and why I can't stop playing this game, is just how wonderfully, seamlessly, joyfully, the systems fold into one another to keep you playing, right? So I'll give you an example. You might want to build a really cool new spear, more powerful, or a suit of armor or whatever, because there's a boss that you're getting your ass kicked by and you want to explore more and kill him and get the goods or whatever. Well, you've got to build a furnace to build the ingots to build the metal spear, right? And so then you say, okay, well, let me go out and capture the right kinds of creatures that can help me build this furnace faster. And then that leads you off into the world. You're exploring, you're fighting, you bring it back, you start building your spear. It's not like Farmville where it takes hours, but and you can speed that up if you assign people on your base that you've captured to build. Well, that still may take a couple of minutes, or depending on how much, how many arrows you want to craft or whatever, and they'll do it for you. So in that time, you're like, oh, okay, well, I have 5 minutes. Let me go do a run to build up my character. So you're busy with that. And when you're out in the environment, you discover something you want to go explore, right? So it's almost like just these trapezes continually swing to you, whether it's the combat, the exploration, the crafting, the base building, the collecting of the characters, or the nurturing of the characters. All of these things are always giving you at least one trapeze coming to you going, hey, if you're starting to get bored, jump to this thing. If you're starting to get bored, jump to this trapeze, right? And it's not overwhelming. It's not like you have 80 choices. I mean, you do, but there's always a path, 1 to 3 paths that, or at least for my experience, gaining my interest, and I'm going off after that. The other part is the level design. There's not like a lot in the level. It's not like everywhere you turn, almost like the beginning when you first experienced Elden Ring, there was something, steeped in lore, and there was, environmental storytelling, and I haven't seen, it's relatively modular in the sense that it's not like you go exploring and you find brand new things all the time. There's chests you can find which are rewarding. There are eggs that you can find that if you've built the incubator, you can take it back to your base and hatch it, and certain eggs have very rare pals inside of them, and some of the ones that are really hard to reach are that'll occupy you for an hour. It's like, I got to get that fucking green egg that's glowing because it'll give me a cool monster once I incubate it. But you got to build the incubator first, and then you got to go get the things you need to build the incubator, right? But there's the eggs, there's the chests, there are these green things that let you level up parts of your character. There are certain substances you need to sort of craft health potions, which of course you're going to need. And so there's enough stuff so far that you can find in the environment that it makes exploring worth doing. But even without that, they do a really good job of just creating, I know it's such a dumb term, Walt Disney called them weenies. You know what these are. These are like the carrots on the stick. It's like, oh shit, I see that in the distance. I'm going to explore a little bit more. That looks cool. There's a fucking tower up there on top of the hill. Let me figure out how to get up to the tower or to the hill, and then I'm going to climb the tower, and at the top there's a payoff, right? There's always, so far, another thing just right off in the distance that isn't just like grinding. It's more like, oh, that looks cool, I want to go exploring. So it scratches that exploring it. They even have these caves that are kind of like they're these like dungeons that appear. I think they're only there for like a day and then they appear somewhere else, and there's nothing to them. I mean, every now and then you'll find something really cool in them, but it's just a fun place to go to grind, to kill guys, to get new XP. Every now and then you'll find a cool item in a treasure chest. There's just a lot to do in this game, and what it's asking you to do at any given time is so disparate from the other options you have that, at least for my brain, it really keeps me engaged. And there's always that new thing. Oh, I want to get that. Let me just play a little bit longer. It nails that, at least for me, and I adore it for that. One of my favorite parts of it is where you do, because I'm not a big base building guy. I didn't build bases in Starfield. I never cared about it in Fallout. I'm not a base building guy, but I like, so if you see, this is my base, it looks like shit. People have already built beautiful fucking things. Building is really easy in the game. I just don't really care. And I haven't gone online with it yet. So I'm sure maybe once I am dealing with raiders or whatever that aren't AI, perhaps then I don't really understand how the online of this works. So this is all just me playing single player. But I love the whole thing where you can assign these pals different jobs and you have to make sure they're fed and you nurture them and stuff. It's just this nice little come down from a big action section of the game. Again, it's kind of mindless, but it's kind of a fun, relaxing, cozy game kind of thing to do in between the big peaks of action. I don't fully understand aspects of this game yet. I haven't read, there's like a Pokédex or whatever the fuck they call it, where it's not just the animals, but the rules and different things. Perhaps it's all in there, but sometimes I'll get one of these creatures that's like, oh, he's annoyed right now and doesn't want to work, or he's slacking off right now, and all I know to do is go up and pet them and make sure they're fed, and it doesn't really seem to make a difference. So I haven't figured that out. Sometimes I'll tell it, like I'll tell the fox to come cook the food because he's got the fire breath, and he'll eventually get there, but sometimes he comes right away, and sometimes he's just in, I'll pick him up and put him in front of the fire and he'll still walk away. So I don't really understand exactly that. Maybe it's early access, so maybe it's just not totally working perfect yet, but that's a little weird, but I love that. I saw somebody say, well, once the streamers stop playing it, this will be dead in a month. I saw that comment on NeoGaf. It might. I don't fucking know. I'm giving you impressions after 15 hours. I'm playing a 15-hour game. I can't stop thinking about it. I can't wait to play it right after I get done with this review, and it might get old after a month. I don't know. I don't care. I've played for 15 hours. Can't wait to play it again for this review to get footage. Can't wait to play it after the review goes up. Just play it. So maybe in 3 weeks or a day, I'll be over it, but, who gives a shit? 15, 20 hours of gameplay, especially on Game Pass, but even if I spent a $30 game, that's pretty fucking good. So I'm digging it. I'm digging it. Maybe it'll go, maybe it won't. I don't fucking know if it's the next big thing or it'll fall off a cliff. But right now, everybody's playing it, and I understand why a lot of people are playing it, because it's good. It's really good. Certainly, if you're a Pokemon fan, of which there are gajillions, and it hits that generational sweet spot just right, where one of the main demographics of playing games are people who love Pokemon and who have been a little... whether they've been disappointed or not in the newer Pokemon, there are certainly those people who say it hasn't evolved enough, which is ironic given that it's Pokemon. Whether or not you love it and you just want more, and it's been a little bit of a dry season, or you love it but you don't feel it's gotten as good as it needs to be in this day and age, whatever it is, there's no doubt that Pokemon love is driving the vast majority of the interest in this game at the beginning. And still currently. I think now you're starting to get people like me, like Looky-Loos, going, what is this thing everybody's talking about? Let me try it. But at the beginning, absolutely, that's what's driving it. I'm playing this game, and it looks kind of cartoony. It's kind of Fortnite looking, which is nice. It's pretty, but but I was just like, I would love this if it was more like this game in Bloodborne. I would love to play that. And I don't mean the combat of Bloodborne, but like the thematic and the art style and the lore of this was this kind of, you're capturing these beasts and monsters, but they're not like cute little animals. They're fucking, from software design stuff. But I get why, people love it, because it looks like Pokemon. I don't know how well it would be doing if it didn't, at least in terms of the hype and getting the hype rolling. It would have definitely been a slower rollout, slower burn to get people into this fucking thing. But it is disturbing how similar it looks. Now, on one hand, my understanding is there are actual Pokemon fans that are upset, to which I'd say, shut the fuck up. Play the game. It's a really good game. And at first, though, I was like, wow, Nintendo's going to sue these motherfuckers, because there's some real fucking similarities here. It's like, wow. But then somebody put up something on Reddit showing the similarities between Pokemon and Dragon Quest, the character designs. And I get the games are a little bit different, a lot different in some ways, depending on the game you're talking about. But you could potentially argue that it's like, well, it's an art style. But even then, there's some in this Palworld that seem a little too close for comfort. The Pikachu thing, I can't imagine Nintendo's going to let that go. Some people have said, well, yeah, but it's really kind of violent. It's not bloody, but you've got guns and you're really, this is a terrible, you kind of feel terrible playing this game if you think about it. I mean, you're capturing things to either kill or put into slavery, where you pretty much make them do everything for you, including people that you can capture, and so people have said, oh, it's a parody, and so it's protected. Okay, I get it if it's clearly a parody. This doesn't feel like a parody. And it's like, yeah, you can't own the rights to a collecting battler game, but that's not why people are accusing it of being a ripoff that could get sued. It's because the visual designs, hell, look at them right here, are so damn similar that I just can't imagine Nintendo not being, how litigious that they are. which is fine. I mean, what's weird about this is it's not from China. China is notorious for putting out a lot of stuff where they just copy stuff, like the Blizzard style. They made a theme park in China that was all Blizzardy, but it didn't have the brand. It was clearly ripped off from World of Warcraft. But this is coming from a Japanese developer who, I don't know. I have no idea what they're thinking, but at least for my American brain, I look at it and go, wow, Nintendo's going to sue somebody. But they're easy fixes. I mean, it's not like you're going to pull the game off the shelf. It's like, okay, well, we're going to do a patch and we're going to take the Pikachu character and we're going to, instead of giving him a lightning tail, we're going to change the shape of the tail and we're going to make him red and not yellow. Okay, done. I mean, that's all you got to do for most of these. But they are pretty close for comfort. That's the goddamn truth. But overall, though, I mean, I can't think of a bad thing to say about this game. If you're into high production values, obviously this is not your cup of tea. There's no real story that I can tell. The bad guys, the Syndicate guys, are really uninspired designs. I don't think there's any music at all except the title screen. The music at the title screen is wonderful, but I don't think there's game music when you're fighting. Everything else is just quiet. The sound ambiance is okay. It really shines a light on the power of the medium. What it does well is so strong that a lot of the things that certain gamers adore about games in terms of production value aren't even there, or if they're there, they're scraping the barrel. They might as well be Unity Asset Store or Unreal Asset Store elements in some cases, but the game is still so compelling and so fun that you don't care. At least I don't care. I highly recommend giving this a shot, especially if you have Game Pass. Call it a review, call it impressions, but here's what I'll tell you on a fun factor, engagement factor, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is an 8.5 for me at the moment. I'm digging it very much. I'll be playing it online with some members pretty soon to check out the online. It's possible I'll be talking more about this on the channel from time to time if I keep playing it, or if I burn out in 2 days and I never come back to it, I'll let you know what happened and why. In the meantime, be well, be safe, and hope to catch you on a live show. Bye, everybody. See y'all.